The Trinity presents God in a way that makes him truly and fundamentally great. Trinity is one of my favorite topics to talk about. It was when I was a Muslim, and the reason for that was because when I was a Muslim and I was trying to get Christians to become Muslims, I often would attack Christianity at the places where I thought it was the weakest. And so I thought the Trinity, the idea that God is one and three, was sort of a nonsense idea. And so Christians had the hardest time defining it, let alone defending it. And now that I'm a Christian, it's actually one of my favorite topics to talk about as well, because I find the Trinity to be such a beautiful concept, once understood in its conceptual ideas and then applied theologically, that it actually brings together so many beautiful things. I think it solves many logical issues, but it also solves many heart issues. In fact, that's why our logo is what it is that it's based on the triquetra, which was a symbol used by St. Patrick and others to bring Christianity to a pagan place, where we would use a symbol of three things that are all different but are all actually the same to represent the Trinity. So what we have to do is start off by discussing what the Trinity is not, because many misconceptions about the Trinity start off with a bad explanation of the Trinity. So some people will say the Trinity is that God is one in his nature and three in his nature. Well, that's a contradiction. Or they'll say God is one in his persons and three in his persons. That's also a contradiction. Rather, what the Trinity teaches, this concept of the Trinity teaches, is that the Bible records God as being one in his being, he is one what, and three in his personhoods, he is three whos. In other words, he has the equivalent of what we would call three minds. And that is not a contradiction if you understand the difference between what something is and who someone is. And if these concepts are different, then we can actually understand, or at least comprehend, the Trinity to a degree. We can, as one famous apologist says, we can apprehend the Trinity but not fully comprehend it. So let's go into this idea of what it means for something to be something and what something is, and then who someone is. This is the distinction between something's nature and something's personhood. So if I were to pick up my cup, and I'd say, what is this? Well, it's a cup, it's a container, you could say a bunch of things about it, but fundamentally what it is it's a non-living thing. Its fundamental nature is non-living object. Now, you could ask of me, what is that? And it's slightly insulting because I'm a human being, but I am a living thing. My fundamental nature is a living thing. So I have a nature, and the cup has a nature. We both share this ability to have something called a nature. I have a whatness, if you will, and the cup has a whatness as well. But you don't say about the cup, who is that? Because it has no personhood. It has no person to itself. But you can say about me, who is that? So I have a property or a state of being that the cup does not. I have personhood. I have an ability to relate to the outside world, rationally, emotionally, and spiritually. So I have who-ness, in other words. I have who-ness, and my who-ness is I'm Abdu. So I am the living thing who is Abdu. So I have a whatness, my nature, and I have a who-ness, which is who I am, and the cup does not. So what something is and who someone is are not the same concept. So when we say in the Christian faith that God is one in his nature, one what, but we say he's three whos, because something's whatness and its who-ness are not the same thing, that's not a contradiction. Now, do you fully understand it? Well, the answer is of course not, because you and I only have one who-ness. We only have one person, but we have one nature as well. God is one in his nature, but three in his persons. And you and I are not three in our person, so we don't know what it's like to be a tri-personal being. But that's okay, because as long as it's not a contradiction, we can at least deal with the issues. So I always talk about the Trinity on these three levels. The first is it logically possible? And I think I just showed that it is logically possible. The second, though, is it scripturally warranted? Does the Bible actually teach it? And so what I'm going to show you is a grid. It's found in my book, Grand Central Question. It's a grid of all the areas where the Bible describes God as one, but also that the Father is God, the Son is God, and the Holy Spirit is God. But they are not each other. They are not. The Father is not the same person as the Son, and the Son is not the same person as the Holy Spirit. They are different personhoods who share the same nature. Three who's, one what. And the Bible describes that. And so you'll see that graphic as well. Now the question becomes, is the Trinity on the third level, is the Trinity theologically necessary? Now, I think it is. And the reason why I think the Trinity solves issues as opposed to presenting problems is because the Trinity presents God in a way that makes him truly and fundamentally great. What do I mean by that? Any concept of God that doesn't make him the greatest possible being is by definition a deficient sense of who God actually is. He has to be the greatest possible being. Now think about this for a moment. If God is the greatest possible being, then he would be the only uncreated thing. All things would flow from him or come from him. Now, if that's the case, and God is also relational, and it's fundamental to his nature, then he needs something or someone to be relational toward. He needs someone to relate to. But if he's the only uncreated being, that means that nothing else existed at some point in time or in some state of affairs except for God, which means he couldn't possibly relate to anything else because those things didn't exist yet. So he would need to create something outside of himself. If he needs to create something outside of himself to be who he is, then he's not truly great because he has a need that he can't fulfill in and of himself. The Trinity solves the problem because what we have is one God in his nature in three persons eternally existent. And so you have the eternity of the community of the Trinity. Father loving the Son, Son loving the Spirit loving the Father and the Son, and on it goes. And so you have a God who doesn't need anything to be who he is. And so when he creates you and me, it's not that he creates us to fulfill a lack that he has. Rather, he creates us to fulfill a lack that we have. He does not need relationship. He defines relationship, which is what the Bible says, that God is love in 1 John chapter 4. But we have the privilege of existing in a state of relationship with God, not because he needs it, but because we need it. God does not create us for his sake. In other words, for his needs. He has none. He creates us so that we can have the privilege of knowing him. The Trinity is logically possible, it's scripturally warranted, and I think it's theologically necessary.